Okay, I'm gonna do a quick overview of my truck and everything I've learned about owning a 7.3 Powerstroke. Well, not everything, I just as much as I can ramble off here in a video that's not an hour long. So this is a 2000 F350. It's a 4x4 and it's got the ZF6 in it. So it took me a long time to find this truck. And yeah, we're just gonna talk about it real quick. So the 2000 year model is nice because it came with the forged rods versus the powdered rods that came in the later 7.3 Powerstroke. So this one's able to handle a lot more power, at least reliably, versus the powdered rods. And yeah, I've had it for quite some time now. I've put a lot of work into it, and so I'm just gonna go through pretty much how to not make this thing an absolute dog that's ridiculously slow and doesn't tow very well once you start getting into, you know, some decent weights, maybe somewhere between 10 and 15,000 pounds. All right, so we're gonna go through power first. So the trucks range from, like, I think it was like 225 horsepower to 275 with a 7.3 Powerstroke, from International, depending on what application it was in, and blah 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 blah. So first things, and everyone knows this if you're looking at these trucks to make more power, is pretty much three basic things that you want to do. So first is an intake. So I went with an AFE setup. It's a sealed box. So that's one of the first mods you're going to need to do, is get a good intake. S&B makes a really nice intake. I went with AFE, and again, it's a sealed intake, so it provides, you know, actual protection and whatnot for the intake in terms of drawing in hot air, versus, you know, outside air that's going to be colder and denser. So first thing you want to do, more power to your truck, is put an intake in it. The second thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to tune your truck. A lot of people like the Hydra. I went with SCT Livewire before I really knew much about the platform, so I got tunes from them. Started off with canned tunes, and then I've gone way down the road in terms of getting additional tunes, custom tunes and whatnot. But you want to get a good intake. You want to tune your truck, and then you're gonna want to get a full exhaust. So is a downpipe. So I went with a downpipe, no muffler setup, and then all the way out straight pipe, so just 4-inch. I got it from Sinister Diesel. I like their products. It's a good product. It's done really well for me. So you can see just a straight pipe back, no crazy tip or anything. And yeah, that's kind of like the first stage of making good power with these trucks. So get a tune, get a good intake, and get a good exhaust, and you should be pretty happy for a while. The next stages are kind of like where you start getting into some more expensive options for your truck to be able to make it, you know, have a little bit more power, be a little bit more reliable with the power, and not have to go crazy EGT. So the next stage would be like some basic fuel mods and things like that. So let me crawl up here real quick. So I did the FRX kit from Riff Raff, which is this system right here. So it's like an easier, cheaper mod than going like, I guess I don't know about cheaper, but it's easier mod than going like a full regulated return system. So that was one of the upgrades I did, was the FRX system. It's not really going to give you a bunch more power, but it's going to make the truck run better. It'll be happier. And then I did the high pressure crossover as well. So that's that metal tube back here, right here. So that ties the two heads together in terms of the high pressure oil. If you're researching these trucks, hopefully you know about HUE injection and all the things to do with, you know, that system for delivering the fuel for this motor. But so yeah, so you go intake, you go tune, you go exhaust, and then you start adding things that are gonna help that. So FRX, HPX, that's kind of like the next stage I did. After that, you can go with kind of like a Frankenstein turbo setup, which is you can get a ported housing cover and then a wicked wheel, delete the exhaust back pressure valve, and go with a high flow outlet. So that was kind of the next stage I did. So I ran the truck like that for quite some time, just HPX, FRX, Frankenstein turbo, intake, tune, and exhaust. And then from there I kind of went to the next stage, which was a drop-in turbo. So this is a KC 300X stage 2 turbo. That was one of my next upgrades. Was I did that to be able to I guess pretty much not, it's the turbo is going to spool better, it's going to run better, it's going to tow better, EGTs will be lower, but I knew I was going to sooner than later max out the stock turbo from where I was going to go. So so that was one of the next things I did. And then I started doing some other things in terms of like maintenance items, but also reliability for more power. So I got rid of the Spider. I did a pusher intake. You can see it's the black piping here, so runs to the intake plenums, and then and that was kind of the next upgrade I did. And at the same time I did, it's really hard to see, I did the Riff Raff diesel billet intake plenums. So the stock plenums are like pressed steel, really thin sheet metal, and those are notorious for leaking. So once you start running, higher boost, tuning, things like that, they're just notorious for being a problem. You can get the Riff Raff diesel, and other companies offer like plenum inserts to like reinforce the plenums. I just said screw it, I'm just gonna upgrade and go with the billet intake plenums, and they have like an O-ring gasket system, so it's a lot more reliable for sealing. They're way more heavy duty in terms of construction. And so yeah, I ended up doing that. So it was kind of like intake, tune, exhaust. Then I did the FRX and the HPX, so fuel crossover, high pressure oil crossover. And then I did the drop-in turbo, the KC 300X. I did that, and then I started doing other upgrades like the intake, the pusher intake I just mentioned, and then the billet intake plenums. And then from there I ran the truck for quite some time, and it was a good setup. The truck was fine, it towed fine, EGTs were down, and it did well. It was just still kind of a dog. So slowly but surely I wanted more power, and I wanted to be able to tow better, and so I ended up going with upgraded injectors. So it's kind of hard to show everyone, but obviously under your valve cover, right, you gotta tear your valve covers off, and then you can upgrade your injectors. And yeah, so I went with 205 30s hybrids for injectors, and then I ended up getting custom tunes for those single shot injectors. So that was kind of the next stage. Was okay, tore out the injectors and upgraded them, and then I got upgraded tuning to run, or custom tunes to run the single shot injectors. So that was, that will put you somewhere between 400 and 500 horsepower. And yeah, so pretty happy with that. It's kind of where I'm at right now. Did things like the boost fooler from Riff Raff. Depending on what forum you read, you don't need the boost fooler. You do need the boost fooler if you have custom tunes. I just did it, even though my custom tunes don't defuel, over, 24, something like that, 22 or 24 PSI once the PCM sees that boost level start defueling. But I just did the boost fooler anyway. And then some of the other mods I did, was I did the Hutch and the Harpoon mod. Crawl under here. Oh, it's on the other side. So I think it's driven diesel or something like that, unlimited diesel, I can't remember. But so yeah, if you know these trucks, you're researching these trucks, yeah, the Hutch and Harpoon mod or something that I did. So you drop the tank, you know, change the return line, cut the filler neck. Those are two things, and so that you would do when you do the Hutch and Harpoon motor. That's what they are. And then I ended up adding this external filter, and then yeah, keeping the stock pump. So pretty much that's where the truck is at. So it doesn't have an upgraded H-pop like an Adrenaline, and it doesn't have it's not running like an upgraded fuel system in terms of like the pump and stuff like that. So that will get you reliable power, at least for me. EGTs are down, and yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at with the truck in terms of upgrades and power upgrades. I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff, but in terms of like maintenance on this truck, there's some very, like, everyone says these things are really reliable. They are reliable. You just need to make sure that you know what you're looking at and what things are common issues. So there's like three really important sensors that I guess four really important sensors I can think of off the top of my head. There's the ICP, the IPR, the crank positioning sensor, and the exhaust back pressure sensor. And I replaced all of those when I got this truck, when I was doing maintenance items. So the ICP is that guy right there. What is it? Injection control pressure or something like that. The IPR is buried behind or under the fuel bowl. And so when you look up that thing, just replace that, or at least research it. There's this thing called like the Tinnerman nut. Those are notorious for coming loose, and so you want to check that. The exhaust back pressure is right there. It's connected to that stainless tube. I think it's stainless, and so you're definitely gonna want to look at that when you get this truck's down on power. Those tubes are notorious for clogging, so just replace the sensor, replace the tube. It runs to, what is it, the passenger side exhaust manifold, and yeah, replace that. And then the crank positioning sensor is, you know, everyone knows what that sensor is, but it's, you know, it's down the crank, sets timing for the truck. Those are notorious for being a problem on this truck, and you're gonna want to, yeah, just research that, get an OEM one, don't get an aftermarket one. There's a whole bunch of talk about the purple one versus the black one. I've ran multiple different types, and just make sure that you get an OEM one, because it's gonna benefit you for sure. Other maintenance items are, so the thermostat housing right there, those are notorious for leaking. I ended up just upgrading and getting a Riff Raff diesel billet thermostat housing. It hasn't leaked. It's been great. Ended up doing a full water pump on the truck just because it was leaking. And you know, you might as well do it when you get a truck that you don't really know the maintenance history of, and you want to make this thing last. So yeah, I keep the truck relatively clean. It's pretty dirty right now, but yeah, those are like some of the main talking points or main things that I've learned about the truck, is that you need to put a lot of work in to get a decent amount of power, but it's worth it, instead of, you know, buying a $70,000 or $100,000 new truck. Don't get me wrong, if I could, I would, but I can't. And so yeah, I just put the money into this thing and done all the wrench time and done all the work myself. Another thing is the passenger side fuel line. So here's your fuel bowl, right? There's a fuel line that runs along the passenger side head. It's actually right there, and that's held in by a clip, or like a little bracket. Those brackets are known to like rub pinholes through the fuel line itself, and you'll end up leaking. So just remove that bracket. It's buried under there, under the spider, but remove that bracket. It will save you time having to deal with a problem later, and then yeah, just get rid of it. So Some of the other things, I guess, so 7.3 power strokes are like known to leak oil. So there's there's your turbo pedestal back there. So there's O-rings between the turbo and the pedestal, and then from the pedestal down to the motor. So those O-rings are notorious for leaking. The high pressure oil pump, can't really see it, but there's a few plugs on the high pressure oil pump that are notorious for leaking. You can research those. There's like a rear end plug. I had to deal with that leak. You can look it up. It's usually like an O-ring that's failed, and you can replace the O-ring, and they have some like some sealant or some like, it's like, I think it's like green, it might be green, but some type of Loctite you throw on the threads with the O-ring that helps deal with the problems. That's another notorious issue. Another problem with these trucks is the slave cylinder, I guess slave master cylinder combination for the clutch, because this is a manual. So definitely look at that. Those are known to go out. You can go to Advanced Auto. They sell one that's a metal bodied slave cylinder, clutch slave, whatever you want to call it, assembly. It's pre-bled. I would get that one. It's definitely worth it. I've had to replace mine a couple times. It's been a huge pain in the ass. And I guess one of the last things is I did do a clutch on this truck for the power. So this thing has a Southbend stage 3 clutch in it, a single disc. It's good for, I think it's good for like 500 or 550 horsepower. I like the clutch. It's definitely a little bit more grabby than the stock clutch was, but when you do a clutch in these trucks, there's a few things you want to research. So definitely research the I think it's called like the copper tube mod. So it's a little drain tube that you'll add to the backside of the valley of the engine. So if you have leaks in the valley, it won't leak into your bell housing and wipe your clutch out if you're not on top of it and you don't realize you're leaking oil. So yeah, definitely research that if you're going to do a clutch job on this truck. Some of the other things, man, I feel like I'm rambling, sorry, but there's just a lot to talk about. So some of the other things are notorious failures on the truck is what is it? So it's the oil cooler. So the oil cooler's under the truck. It's like this long tube looking thing. Those are notorious for leaking. So it's that tube right up there. So you can research that. There's like 2 gaskets, one that goes to the back side of the assembly, one that goes to the front. Replace the gaskets, replace the O-rings on the cooler. That should help. I would just do it because they're known to leak really, really bad. The other thing is the dipstick tube. There's mine. It's got some sealant all smeared over it, but I did the fix where you can buy a kit, replace the O-rings without having to drop the pan, and then that's another notorious leak on these trucks. So just when you're looking at these trucks, research it, understand that it's probably something you're gonna have to fix sooner than later because they leak. So what else is there to talk about? Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot more to the truck. I just can't really think of it right now. I did Bilsteins on the truck. I did a front end, full front end rebuild on all the steering components. So drag link and pitman arm and tie rod ends and all that stuff. I also did a redhead steering box on this truck. Can't really see it, but that's the steering box upgrade. It's a nice upgrade. Can't really get a good picture of it. Oh, there's the top of it down there. So that's a good upgrade to do on the truck. It definitely made a difference. Helps your truck from wandering, feeling like it's just going all over the road. Sometimes that it's not necessarily the steering box or the steering components. It can be ball joints, but mine was kind of a combination of steering components and front end and the steering box itself. So I replaced that. Here's another good upgrade too, is that get the ambulance style upper radiator hose that routes behind the serpentine belt, so you can change the serpentine belt without having to pull the radiator hose, and it's just a better routing. So I would definitely upgrade that. That's a good upgrade to do. What else, man? There's probably so much I'm missing and so much I've done, but yeah, I mean, when I did injectors, I did the injector cups. Those are the cups that are sitting in the heads. You can research that for sure. It's quite an extensive job, but when you replace injectors, you can pressurize the cooling system and see if you have leaky injector cups. You can rent the extraction and installation tool from Riff Raff Diesel if your injector cups are leaking. But I would definitely inspect those when you're doing an injector upgrade. And then like some of the other little things is just like, I changed the grill out to a newer style one. It's kind of like a modified 6.0 grill to fit in a 7.3. I did the upgraded side mirrors with the turn signals and, you know, the newer style. Pretty much it's just, yeah, I just have to run some wires into the cab, splice into power for the heat function, and splice into the turn signal wires for the turn signals to work and the running lights. I did the newer rear tail lights. I think it's from an 08. That's a pretty simple mod. You can just pull these out, put these ones in, and then all you have to do is splice onto the reverse light bulb wire and just extend it so you can run your reverse light bulb up top versus down below. So that was a good upgrade. I definitely recommend doing that upgrade. And then, yeah, I mean, I did some interior mods. You can redo the interior, get new seats. I got these from the seat shop. I really like them. I did this seat and the passenger seat and the top cover, and then a doubled in stereo upgrade. I think that's definitely worth it, so you can, you know, hands-free calling and stuff like that. This is actually the defroster for the mirrors. So if you're going to add heat to your mirrors, you're going to have to wire in a switch so that you can obviously turn your heated mirrors on and off. And then for sure you want to add an EGT gauge. I just did a standard gauge. You can run it off your tuner or your whatever platform you're using to monitor your stuff, but I just did a straight gauge. And there's a lot of talk of like pre-turbo, post-turbo installation. Pretty much the consensus is that when you're putting in an EGT probe, the right place, God dang it, the right place to do it is right there. So you would drill, tap that. What was that, the passenger or the driver's side exhaust manifold right there before it leaves to go to your up pipe. Oh yeah, that too. So there's one up pipe, and there's up pipes on the other side. Those are notorious for leaking too, so you can upgrade. I did that upgrade too to international bellowed up pipes. So they allow for like expansion and contraction for heat cycling. Definitely do that upgrade. Those are like, they'll rob boost pressure. They'll also make your EGTs just skyrocket. So definitely look at that. It's easiest to do it when you're dropping the turbo. So if you're gonna pull the turbo because it leaks, just spend the extra money and get some up pipes and replace those. And yeah, it's totally worth it. I mean, there's just so much more to talk about, like under valve cover gasket harnesses and the 42 pin connector on the driver's side. That's a common issue. They'll rub against the valve cover and they'll cause a bunch of problems. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested, I can make another follow-up video just talking about the truck more. But that's kind of my 2 cents, is that those are like some of the main things to look for, some of the main things to upgrade if you want more power. Oh man, just so much to talk about. I would definitely upgrade the glow plug relay. So there's mine. I upgraded it to the stand core glow plug relay upgrade. The OEM ones are just pieces of crap. You get one from Napa, they're pieces of crap. They'll last you like a month, so just spend the extra money, get the upgraded stand core glow plug relay, and then obviously, you know, make sure your glow plugs are working. You can ohm the you can test the glow plugs if they're working at the under valve cover harness plugs that are right on the top of the valve covers. Make sure that all your glow plugs are working. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it right there. Yeah, I'm not very good at making videos where I talk, but that's just a lot of the stuff that I've had to do, I've had to deal with, and take care of. There's also this thing called like the injector driver module or whatever. It's like buried under here under the wheel well cover. So those are known to get water in them, cause a bunch of drivability issues or no start issues. So research that. Make sure that you can pull your fender liner out, look at it. If you see green crusties, then you know there's water infiltration. It's probably a good idea to replace it. They're pretty expensive, but it's definitely worth doing. What else did I do? I did a 6.0 starter, so you get faster cranking. I think it was the gear reduction starter. Excuse me. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much 25 minutes of just BSing about this truck. And there's a lot more about the truck and a lot more things that go wrong and way to test stuff, but it's kind of like just a general overview of what I've done to my truck and make it more reliable, make it tow better, and just be a better overall workhorse for me, a tow pig for me. So I don't daily drive this truck, but I do use it a lot, tow my dump trailer with it, and use it for other various things. And so, yeah, if you take care of it, it will take care of you. But this idea that these things are just super reliable and they need like, no massaging is just, it's not true. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment down below if you got any questions or anything like that. I'll try to, tell you what I know. I definitely do not know everything about these trucks, but I know enough to get myself in trouble. And I just have so many hours of wrench time in this truck. And like I said, it's just, I really want a 6.7. I really want a new dually, but they're $100,000, and who has $100,000 for a truck? At least not me. So I bought this thing for $7,000. I think it was a pastor owned it. I live in Washington State, and I drove all the way down to Oregon to get it. And so, yeah, it was just, kind of his workhorse. It was just absolutely neglected. But yeah, I got it for $7,000. I've probably sunk, I don't know, a lot of money into it, but nowhere near what it would cost to buy a new truck. And like I said, it's not my daily driver. So I'm really happy with it. And let me know if you have any questions, comment down below. And yeah, I'll try to answer. So thanks again.